The classroom felt different that morning, though no one could quite put their finger on why. 23 second graders shuffled to their seats, backpacks thudding against chairs, pencils clattering onto desks. But in the third row, near the window, 8-year-old Lily Martinez stood perfectly still beside her desk, her small hands gripping the wooden edge so tightly her knuckles had turned white. Ms. Carter noticed immediately. She'd been teaching for 12 years, long enough to recognize when something wasn't right. The morning sun streamed through the windows, casting long shadows across the colorful alphabet posters and student artwork that decorated the walls. But Lily's shadow remained vertical, unmoving, even as the other children settled into their morning routine. "Lily, sweetheart, please take your seat," Ms. Bull Carter said gently, her voice carrying across the classroom chatter. The little girl's dark eyes flickered toward her teacher, then quickly away. She lowered herself slowly, so slowly, toward the blue plastic chair. Her face contorted, lips pressed into a thin line. Then, as if touched by fire, she shot back up, standing rigidly beside her desk again. "I'm okay standing, Ms. Carter," Lily said, her voice barely above a whisper. Several students turned to look. Jason, the boy who sat behind Lily, leaned over to his friend Marcus. "Why won't she sit down?" he whispered, not quite quietly enough. Ms. Carter walked down the aisle, her footsteps soft against the linoleum floor. She knelt beside Lily's desk, bringing herself to the child's eye level. Up close, she could see things she hadn't noticed from the front of the room. The slight sheen of perspiration on Lily's forehead, despite the comfortable temperature, the way her breathing seemed shallow and controlled, the trembling in her small frame that she was trying desperately to hide. "Are you feeling all right?" Miss Carter asked, keeping her voice low, private. "Yes, ma'am. I just want to stand today." Miss Carter studied the child's face. Something in those eyes, a flicker of fear or perhaps pain, made her stomach tighten with concern. But she knew better than to push. Not yet. Not here, in front of everyone. "All right," she said finally, standing up. "But if you need anything, anything at all, you come tell me. Okay?" Lily nodded quickly, relief washing over her features. The morning progressed with increasing strangeness. During reading time, while the other children sat cross-legged on the carpet for story hour, Lily stood at the back of the group. When they moved to their desks for math worksheets, Lily remained standing, hunching awkwardly over her paper to write. Her handwriting, usually neat and careful, came out shaky and uneven. Before we dive deeper into what was happening with Lily, drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. If you enjoy educational stories like this, be sure to like the video, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and share it with someone who'd love it too. Ms. Carter watched all of this with growing alarm. She'd seen Lily just last week, and the girl had been different then. Not happy. Exactly, Lily had grown increasingly withdrawn over the past month, but at least she'd been able to sit normally. She'd participated in class activities without this obvious physical discomfort. During lunch, Miss Carter caught Mrs. Henderson, the school nurse, in the hallway. The older woman was carrying a stack of medical forms, her reading glasses perched on top of her gray-streaked hair. "Do you have a minute?" Miss Carter asked. "I need to talk to you about one of my students." They stepped into an empty classroom. Through the small window in the door, Miss Carter could see students streaming past, heading to the cafeteria. "It's Lily Martinez," she began. "She won't sit down. She's been standing all morning, and when she tried to sit, she looked like she was in pain." Mrs. Henderson's expression shifted from curious to concerned. Physical pain. It seemed like it. She caught herself, pulled back up immediately, and she's walking stiffly like something hurts. Has she complained of anything? Stomachache? Headache? No, she insists she's fine, but I've been teaching long enough to know when a child is hiding something. Mrs. Henderson nodded slowly. Keep an eye on her this afternoon. Document what you see. If it continues, we'll need to have her come to my office." The afternoon brought no improvement. If anything, Lily seemed to grow worse. During art class, when the children were working on watercolor paintings, Lily stood at her easel, swaying slightly. Her brush moved across the paper with none of her usual care or attention. The painting that emerged was muddy, the colors bleeding together into a grayish-brown that seemed to mirror the shadows under her eyes. "Lily, are you sure you wouldn't be more comfortable sitting?" Ms. Carter tried again, gently. "I can't," Lily whispered, then quickly added, I don't want to." "Sweetie, I can see you're uncomfortable. Please, let me help you." Lily's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them back fiercely. "I'm fine. Really." At recess, Ms. Carter stood near the playground equipment, watching her students run and play. Most of them scattered immediately, racing for the swings or the jungle gym. But Lily walked slowly to a spot near the fence and simply stood there, watching the other children with an expression of such profound sadness that it made Ms. Carter's heart ache. Sarah Chen, another second grader, ran up to Lily. "Want to play tag?" "I can't today," Lily said softly. "Why not?" "I just can't." Sarah hesitated, then shrugged and ran off to join the other children. Lily remained by the fence, isolated in a crowd of playing children, standing perfectly still as if movement itself caused pain. Ms. Carter pulled out her phone and began making notes. The time, Lily's behavior, her exact words, everything might be important later. When the children lined up at the end of recess, Ms. Carter positioned herself at the front to lead them back inside. The students jostled and chatted, still full of playground energy. They moved forward, a chaotic line of 8-year-olds, and Ms. Carter glanced back to do a quick head count. That's when she saw Lily stumble. The little girl's legs seemed to give out suddenly. She pitched forward, arms windmilling, heading straight for the concrete. Miss Carter lunged backward, catching Lily just before she hit the ground. She wrapped her arms around the child's small frame, pulling her upright. Lily's scream pierced the afternoon air. It wasn't a scream of surprise or fear. It was a scream of pure, agonizing pain. "Lily, Lily, what's wrong?" Miss Carter held her carefully, trying not to cause more pain, but Lily was writhing, trying to pull away. "Please," Lily sobbed, her face contorted. "Please don't touch me there. Please, please, please." The other students had frozen, staring. Some of the younger ones looked frightened. Miss Carter's mind raced. She needed to get Lily somewhere private, needed to call for help, needed to understand what was happening. "Marcus, run inside and get Mrs. Henderson," Miss Carter called out. "Tell her it's urgent. Sarah, take the rest of the class inside to Mrs. Johnson's room. Tell her there's an emergency. Go now." The children scattered, Marcus sprinting toward the building while Sarah herded the others away. Within moments, Miss Carter and Lily were alone on the playground. The little girl was crying now, harsh, gulping sobs that shook her entire body. "Lily, sweetheart, I need you to breathe. Can you breathe with me?" Miss Carter kept her voice calm, steady, even though her own heart was hammering. "In through your nose, out through your mouth." That's it. Slowly, Lily's breathing began to even out. The sobs became quieter, but she was still trembling, still holding herself in that rigid, protective way. Mrs. Henderson appeared at a run, her medical bag bouncing against her hip. What happened? She collapsed. When I caught her, she screamed. She said not to touch her there. Miss Carter gestured vaguely. "I think something is seriously wrong." Mrs. Henderson knelt beside them. "Lily, honey, can you hear me? I'm Mrs. Henderson, the school nurse. We need to make sure you're okay. Can you tell me where it hurts?" Lily shook her head frantically. I'm fine. I just need to go back to class. Please let me go back to class." "Sweetheart, you're not fine," Mrs. Henderson said gently. "And that's okay. We're here to help you. But we need to understand what's hurting." Nothing hurts. I just slipped." Ms. Carter and Mrs. Henderson exchanged glances. The child was clearly lying, but why? What was she so afraid of? "Lily," Ms. Carter said softly, "do you remember at the beginning of the year when we talked about telling the truth? Especially when something is wrong? Remember how I said that teachers are here to keep you safe?" Lily nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Then please, please let us help you. Whatever is wrong, we can fix it. But you have to tell us the truth." For a long moment, Lily didn't respond. She stared at the ground, her small body shaking. Then, in a voice so quiet they almost couldn't hear it, she whispered, "I fell down the stairs. At home. A few days ago." Mrs. Henderson leaned in. "Where did you hurt yourself when you fell?" Lily's hand moved slowly to her lower back, then stopped. "Everywhere. But I'm okay now. Really. If you're okay, why won't you sit down? It just hurts a little bit. It'll get better." Mrs. Henderson stood up, gesturing for Ms. Carter to step away with her for a moment. In low voices, they conferred. "This doesn't add up," Mrs. Henderson said. "If she fell a few days ago and is still in this much pain, she needs to see a doctor. And the way she reacted when you touched her, that was extreme. I think we need to examine her, at least visually." "She's terrified," Ms. Carter said. "Did you see her face? She's not just in pain, she's scared." "Scared of what, though? Of getting in trouble? Of us finding something?" "I don't know, but we need to find out." They returned to Lily, who had wiped her face and was trying to compose herself. Mrs. Henderson crouched down again, making herself small and non-threatening. "Lily, I need to look at where you're hurt, just to make sure everything is healing properly. Is that okay?" "No," Lily said quickly. "No, it's fine. I don't need anyone to look. Honey, if you fell down the stairs hard enough that you can't sit several days later, we need to make sure nothing is broken or seriously injured." "It's not broken. I'm fine." "Then let me verify that, please. We can go to my office where it's private, just you and me. Ms. Carter can come too if that makes you feel better." Lily looked between the two women, trapped. Finally, she nodded, barely perceptibly. The walk to the nurse's office felt endless. Lily moved like someone walking to their execution, each step measured and painful. Ms. Carter stayed close, ready to catch her if she stumbled again. Mrs. Henderson led the way, moving slowly to accommodate Lily's pace. The hallways were empty now, the other students settled in their classrooms, and their footsteps echoed off the polished floors. When they reached the nurse's office, Mrs. Henderson unlocked the door and gestured them inside. The small room smelled of antiseptic and contained an examination table covered with crisp paper, a desk cluttered with forms and files, and a rolling chair. Lily stood in the middle of the room, hugging herself, looking smaller than ever. "Okay, sweetheart," Mrs. Henderson said, closing the door gently. "I'm going to need you to let me see where you're hurt. You can keep your uniform on. I just need to lift it a little to see your back and make sure everything looks okay. Is that all right?" Lily's breathing quickened. She shook her head. "Please don't make me, please." Ms. Carter moved closer, placing herself where Lily could see her face. "What are you afraid of, Lily? You can tell us. Whatever it is, we're here to help. I don't want anyone to see. I don't want you to know. I don't want anyone to know." "To know what?" Mrs. Henderson asked gently. Lily's face crumpled. Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. "I tried to fix it myself. I thought I could fix it, and then nobody would have to know and everything would be okay." The two women exchanged alarmed glances. Mrs. Henderson knelt down, bringing herself to Lily's level. "Lily, honey, listen to me. Whatever is under your clothes, whatever you're hiding, it's not your fault. Do you understand me? None of this is your fault." But it is, Lily sobbed. I should have been more careful. I should have... She broke off, shaking her head frantically. More careful about what? Miss Carter asked. Lily didn't answer. She just stood there crying, her whole body trembling with the force of her sobs. Mrs. Henderson made a decision. Lily, I need to examine you. I know you're scared, but we're past the point where we can just take your word that everything is fine. I'm going to be very gentle, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm doing before I do it. Okay? Lily nodded miserably, resigned. I'm going to have you turn around, and I'm going to very carefully lift the back of your shirt. Just enough to see your lower back. If it hurts, you tell me immediately, and I'll stop. Ready? Another small nod. Lily turned around slowly, facing the wall. Her shoulders were hunched, defensive. Mrs. Henderson moved behind her and very gently took hold of the hem of Lily's white polo shirt. She lifted it slowly, carefully, watching the child's reaction. What she saw made her breath catch in her throat. Wrapped around Lily's torso, covering her lower back and hips, were layers and layers of bandages. But these weren't the neat, clean bandages you'd get from a hospital or even a home first aid kit. These were strips of cloth, old t-shirts it looked like, wound tightly around the child's small frame. They were dirty, stained with brown patches that could only be dried blood. Some of the strips had cut into the skin, creating angry red marks. The wrapping was so tight that Lily's skin bulged slightly around the edges. "Oh my God," Miss Carter whispered, her hand flying to her mouth. Mrs. Henderson's professional composure nearly broke. She'd seen a lot in her 20 years as a school nurse, but this was different. This was a child who had suffered serious injury and then tried to hide it so desperately that she'd essentially bound her own wounds, likely making everything worse. "Lily," Mrs. Henderson said, her voice shaking slightly, "how long have you had these bandages on?" "Since Saturday night," Lily whispered. 4 days. "And who put them on?" There was a long pause. Then, "I did." "You did this yourself?" "Yes, ma'am." Mrs. Henderson carefully lowered the shirt. She walked around to face Lily, whose eyes were still fixed on the floor. "Sweetheart, I need you to look at me." When Lily finally lifted her gaze, Mrs. Henderson continued, "These bandages need to come off. They're too tight, and they've been on too long. I can see they're cutting into your skin. We need to clean whatever injuries are underneath and treat them properly. Do you understand?" Lily nodded, tears streaming silently down her face. "This is going to hurt. I'm not going to lie to you, but we'll go slow, and we'll be as gentle as possible. Miss Carter is going to hold your hand. Okay?" Miss Carter immediately moved to Lily's side, offering her hand. Lily grabbed it with both of hers, gripping so tightly that Miss Carter's fingers went numb. Mrs. Henderson began the careful process of removing the makeshift bandages. She had to use scissors to cut through some of the cloth because it had been wrapped so tightly. With each layer removed, the picture became clearer and more horrifying. Beneath the bandages, Lily's lower back and hips were covered in bruises. They ranged from deep purple to yellowish green, marking different stages of healing. Some were the size of quarters. Others were larger, spreading across her small frame like dark continents on a map. There were also abrasions, places where the skin had been scraped raw and had tried to heal without proper care, forming crusty scabs. The areas where the bandages had been too tight showed the worst damage, with the makeshift cloth having actually cut into the already injured skin, creating new wounds on top of old ones. Mrs. Henderson worked in silence, her jaw clenched, carefully cataloging every injury. Miss Carter had to look away at one point, overwhelmed by the sight of what this child had been enduring. Finally, all the bandages were removed. Mrs. Henderson photographed the injuries, standard procedure for cases like this, then began the gentle process of cleaning and properly dressing the wounds. Lily whimpered but didn't cry out, as if she'd learned to swallow her pain. When it was done, when Lily was wearing clean, proper medical bandages that didn't constrict her movement, Mrs. Henderson pulled up her rolling chair and sat down heavily. Ms. Carter guided Lily to the examination table, helping her sit very carefully on its edge. "Lily," Mrs. Henderson began, "I need to ask you some very important questions, and I need you to tell me the truth. Can you do that?" "Yes, ma'am." "You said you fell down the stairs on Saturday. Is that true?" Lily hesitated, then shook her head slowly. "No, ma'am." "Did someone hurt you?" Another pause. "I can't tell you." "Why can't you tell us?" "Because if I tell, something bad will happen." Miss Carter leaned forward. "Lily, what bad thing do you think will happen?" "They'll take him away. They'll separate us. I can't let that happen. I can't." "Take who away?" Mrs. Henderson asked gently. "Who are you protecting?" "My brother," Lily whispered. "Ben. He's only 5. He needs me. I have to protect him." The pieces were starting to come together, but the picture they formed was terrifying. Miss Carter felt ice run down her spine. "Lily, is Ben hurt too?" "No, I made sure he wasn't. That's why I—" She stopped abruptly, covering her mouth with her hands as if she could stuff the words back in. "That's why you what?" Mrs. Henderson pressed gently. But Lily shook her head, squeezing her eyes shut. "I can't tell you. I can't. Please don't make me." Mrs. Henderson stood up and walked to her desk, picking up her phone. "Lily, I need to make some calls. Miss Carter is going to stay with you. I need you to understand something very important. When a child is hurt like this, we have to tell people whose job it is to make sure children are safe. We don't have a choice. It's the law. But those people, they are good people. Their job is to help, not to hurt. You're going to take Ben away from me," Lily said, her voice breaking. "That's what happens. That's what happened to my friend Maria. They took her away and she had to live with strangers, and I never saw her again." "That's not necessarily what will happen," Mrs. Henderson said. "Every situation is different. But right now I need to call some people. Okay?" Lily didn't respond. She just sat there, looking defeated, all the fight drained out of her. Mrs. Henderson stepped into the small attached office and made her calls, first to the principal, Mr. Davis, explaining the situation in clipped, professional tones, then to the Child Protective Services hotline. Miss Carter could hear her through the door, giving Lily's name, describing the injuries, explaining the child's statements about protecting her brother. Miss Carter sat beside Lily on the examination table, not touching her but staying close. "Lily, can I ask you something?" The girl nodded listlessly. "When did you learn to wrap bandages like that? It must have been hard to do by yourself." "I watched videos on YouTube," Lily said quietly. "On my mom's phone. I searched how to wrap injuries and watched like 10 videos. I thought if I could just keep them covered and pressed tight, they'd heal faster and nobody would see." "Why didn't you want anyone to see?" "Because then they'd ask questions, and if they asked questions, they'd find out. And if they found out, they'd come to our house. And if they came to our house, they'd see that Mom's always working and me and Ben are alone a lot. And then they'd say she's a bad mom. But she's not. She's trying her best. She works 2 jobs to pay for our apartment and our food and everything. It's not her fault." "Is your mom the one who hurt you?" "No." Lily's response was immediate and fierce. "My mom would never hurt me. She doesn't even know about this. I made sure she didn't see. I changed in the bathroom with the door locked. I told her I was fine whenever she asked if anything was wrong." "Then who hurt you, Lily?" The little girl's face closed off. "I can't tell you." "Because of Ben?" "Because of Ben. I have to protect Ben. That's my job. I'm his big sister. It's my job to keep him safe." Before Ms. Carter could respond, Mrs. Henderson returned, followed by Mr. Davis, the principal. He was a tall man with graying hair and kind eyes. But right now those eyes were filled with concern and barely suppressed anger. "Lily," he said gently, crouching down to her level, "I'm very sorry this happened to you. We're going to do everything we can to help you and your brother. A woman from Child Protective Services is on her way here right now. Her name is Ms. Ramos, and her job is to talk to children who might be in danger and make sure they're safe. She's going to ask you some questions. I know it's scary, but she's very nice and she's very good at her job." "Is she going to take Ben away?" Lily asked, her voice small and frightened. "I don't know what's going to happen," Mr. Davis said honestly. "But I do know that Ms. Ramos's goal is to keep families together when it's safe to do so. She's not there to punish anyone or to break families apart. She's there to help." Lily didn't look convinced. They waited in the nurse's office, the minutes stretching out. Mrs. Henderson gave Lily some water and a granola bar, which she nibbled at without much interest. Ms. Carter kept up a stream of gentle conversation, trying to keep the child distracted, but Lily's responses were monosyllabic, her mind clearly elsewhere. Finally, there was a knock on the door. Mr. Davis opened it to reveal a woman in her mid-30s, with dark hair pulled back in a neat bun and warm brown eyes. She wore a blazer and carried a leather bag over her shoulder. "I'm Elena Ramos," she said, offering her hand to Mr. Davis, then to Mrs. Henderson and Ms. Carter. Finally, she turned to Lily. "And you must be Lily. I'm very glad to meet you, though I wish it were under better circumstances." Lily stared at her silently. Ms. Ramos pulled up a chair and sat down, setting her bag on the floor beside her. "Lily, I work for an organization that helps children who might be in unsafe situations. The people at your school called me because they're worried about you, and when people are worried about a child, it's my job to come and talk to that child and make sure they're okay. Does that make sense?" Lily nodded slightly. "I'm going to ask you some questions. Some of them might be hard to answer, but I want you to know that you're not in trouble. Nobody here thinks you did anything wrong. We're all on your side, okay?" Another small nod. "Can you tell me about the injuries on your back? How did they happen?" Lily's hands twisted in her lap. "I fell." "Where did you fall?" "Down the stairs." "At home?" "Yes." Ms. Ramos made a note on the tablet she'd pulled from her bag. "When did this fall happen?" "Saturday night." "And after you fell, what did you do?" "I went to my room and put bandages on." "Did you tell your mom you fell?" "No." "Why not?" Lily's voice dropped to barely a whisper. "She wasn't home. She was at work." "So you were home alone?" "No. Ben was there, my little brother." "Just you and Ben?" Lily hesitated, and in that hesitation Ms. Ramos seemed to read volumes. "Was anyone else there, Lily?" The little girl's eyes filled with tears again. "I can't tell you. If I tell you, you'll take Ben away from me." Ms. Ramos leaned forward slightly. "Lily, I want to be honest with you. I can't promise you that nothing will change. When a child is hurt, we have to figure out why and make sure it doesn't happen again. But I can promise you that I will do everything in my power to keep you and Ben together, and to keep you both safe. That's my job. But I can't do my job if I don't know what happened. Do you understand?" Lily was crying freely now, her small shoulders shaking. "He said if I told anyone, bad things would happen. He said they'd take Ben away and put him in foster care and I'd never see him again. He said my mom would get in trouble for leaving us alone. He said it was all my fault for not listening to him." Ms. Ramos's expression hardened, though her voice remained gentle. "Who said these things to you, Lily?" "Mr. Peterson. He lives next door." The name hung in the air like a poison. Ms. Ramos wrote it down carefully, her pen moving deliberately across her tablet. "Mr. C. Peterson is your neighbor?" "Yes, ma'am. He lives in apartment 4B. We're in 4A. And how do you know Mr. Peterson? Lily wiped her face with the back of her hand. He's been our neighbor for like a year. Sometimes he helps my mom with stuff. Like when our sink was leaking, he fixed it. And sometimes when Mom has to work late, he said he'd watch us so she didn't have to pay a babysitter. Miss Ramos nodded, keeping her expression neutral, but Miss Carter could see the tension in her jaw. So Mr. Peterson watches you and Ben sometimes? Yeah, not all the time. Just when Mom has to work really late or on weekends. And what happened on Saturday night? Was Mr. Peterson watching you and Ben? Lily nodded miserably. Mom had to work the night shift at the hospital. She's a nursing assistant. She left at 6 o'clock and wasn't going to be back until 7 in the morning. Mr. Peterson came over around 7. Then what happened? At first, everything was normal. He made us dinner, just mac and cheese from a box. And we watched TV for a while. Then he said Ben should go to bed. It was only 8:30, but Ben was tired anyway, so I took him to our room and helped him brush his teeth and put on his pajamas. I read him a story until he fell asleep. Where was Mr. Peterson while you were putting Ben to bed? In the living room, watching TV. Okay. And after Ben was asleep? Lily's hands twisted together so tightly her knuckles went white. I went back out to the living room. Mr. Peterson was drinking beer. He had like 3 cans on the coffee table already. He told me to sit down next to him on the couch. Miss Ramos's voice remained steady, but Miss Carter noticed her grip tighten on her tablet. Did you sit down? Yes. I didn't want to make him mad. He gets mean when he's mad. Has he been mean to you before? Lily nodded. A few weeks ago, I accidentally spilled juice on the couch. He grabbed my arm really hard and yelled at me. He left a bruise. I had to wear long sleeves for a week so nobody would see. Miss Carter felt sick. How had she not noticed? How had this child been suffering right in front of her and she'd missed it? So you sat down on the couch, Ms. Ramos prompted gently. What happened next? He started saying weird stuff, like how I was getting so grown up and how pretty I was. It made me uncomfortable. I told him I was tired and wanted to go to bed, but he said I should stay up a little longer and keep him company. He said my mom would want me to be nice to him since he was doing her such a big favor. Then what? He tried to put his arm around me. I didn't like it. I stood up and said I really needed to go to bed because I had homework to do for Monday. He got mad, really mad. He stood up and grabbed my arm again, the same arm he'd grabbed before, right on the bruise. It hurt so bad I cried out. Lily paused, taking a shaky breath. Ms. Carter wanted to comfort her, to stop this painful recounting, but she knew the child needed to tell her story. He said I was being disrespectful, that my mom was raising me wrong, that I needed to learn some manners. Then Lily's voice broke. Then he pushed me, hard. I fell backward and hit the coffee table. My back and side hit the edge of it. It hurt so much I couldn't breathe for a minute. Did he do anything else? Ms. Ramos asked quietly. He stood over me and said if I told anyone about this, he'd make sure Ben got hurt next time. He said he knew I loved my brother, and if I was smart, I'd keep my mouth shut. Then he said my mom would lose her job if they found out she was leaving us alone, and we'd end up homeless or in foster care. He said it was all my fault for making him angry. What did you do then? I crawled to my room. My back hurt so bad. When I looked in the mirror, I could see all these bruises starting to form. They kept getting darker and darker. By Sunday morning, they were purple and black. I knew if anyone saw them, they'd ask questions, so I looked up how to wrap them. I thought if I kept them wrapped tight, they'd heal faster and nobody would know. Did Mr. Peterson come back after Saturday? He came over Sunday evening to check on us. That's what he told my mom when she got home. He acted all nice and normal, like nothing had happened. But when Mom went to the bathroom, he looked at me and whispered, "Remember what I said." I was so scared. I just nodded. Did he hurt Ben at all? No. I made sure he didn't. I kept Ben in our room most of the time when Mr. Peterson was there. I told Ben we were playing a game where we had to be really quiet and stay in our room. Ben thought it was fun. Ms. Ramos leaned back in her chair, her expression grave. "Lily, you are incredibly brave for telling me this. I know it was scary, but you did the right thing. None of this is your fault. Do you understand me?" "None of it. But I made him angry." "No," Ms. Ramos said firmly. "Adults are responsible for controlling their own anger. When an adult hurts a child, it is never the child's fault. Mr. Peterson made a choice to hurt you. That was his choice, not yours. You didn't make him do anything." Lily looked uncertain, but she nodded slowly. "I need to ask you something else," Ms. Ramos continued. "Has Mr. Peterson ever touched you inappropriately, in places that made you uncomfortable?" "No. He tried to put his arm around me that one time, but that's it. Mostly he just gets mad and grabs my arm or pushes me." "Has he ever touched Ben?" "No. I never let him get close enough. Whenever Mr. Peterson is there, I keep Ben with me." Ms. Ramos made several more notes. "Where is Ben right now?" "At school. He goes to kindergarten at Park Elementary. That's the school on the other side of town." "And when does school end for him?" 3:00. Mrs. Wilson next door picks him up and keeps him at her place until I get home. She's really nice. She gives us snacks and lets Ben watch cartoons." "What time does your mom get home from work?" "It depends. If she's working the day shift, she gets home around 7. If she's working the night shift, she leaves at 6 and gets back around 7 in the morning." "Is tonight a day shift or night shift?" "Day shift. She'll be home at 7. Ms. Ramos nodded, her mind clearly working through the logistics. She stood up and gestured for Mr. Davis to step outside with her. Through the small window in the door, Ms. Carter could see them conferring in low voices. Mr. Davis looked increasingly grim as Ms. Ramos spoke. When they came back in, Ms. Ramos addressed Lily again. "Lily, here's what's going to happen. I need to talk to your mom, and I need to talk to Ben. I also need to make sure Mr. Peterson doesn't have access to either of you anymore. So I'm going to go to your school and pick up Ben, and we're going to all meet together at a safe place to talk. In the meantime, you're going to stay here with Miss Carter and Mrs. Henderson. Is that okay?" "What about my mom? Is she going to be in trouble?" "Your mom isn't in trouble for working to support you, but we do need to make sure you and Ben are safe, and that means having a conversation about what's been happening. Your mom loves you, right? She loves us so much. Then she'll want to know about this, so she can protect you. Parents can't protect their children from things they don't know about." Lily considered this, then nodded. "Okay." Ms. Ramos gathered her things. "I'll be back in about an hour. Try to rest if you can." She looked at Mrs. Henderson. "Keep her comfortable. I'll call you when I'm on my way back." After Ms. Ramos left, the nurse's office felt very quiet. Mrs. Henderson pulled out some coloring books and crayons from a cabinet. "I keep these for the younger kids who come in scared," she explained. "Sometimes it helps to have something to do with your hands." Lily picked up a crayon listlessly and began coloring, but her heart wasn't in it. Ms. Carter sat beside her, occasionally making gentle small talk, but mostly just being present. About 45 minutes later, Ms. Ramos called to say she was on her way back with Ben. When they arrived, Ben burst through the door and ran straight to his sister. "Lily!" He wrapped his arms around her waist, then immediately pulled back when she gasped in pain. "Sorry, did I hurt you?" "It's okay, buddy," Lily said, gently hugging him with one arm. "I'm just a little sore." Ben was small for his age, with the same dark hair and eyes as his sister. He looked bewildered by all the adults and the serious atmosphere. "Am I in trouble?" "The lady said I wasn't, but she wouldn't tell me why I had to leave school early." "You're not in trouble," Lily assured him. "Nobody's in trouble." Ms. Ramos had been followed into the office by a uniformed police officer, a woman with short blonde hair and a kind face. "This is Officer Martinez," Ms. Ramos introduced her. "She's here to help us make sure you're both safe." The next hour was a careful dance of questions and answers. Ms. Ramos spoke with Ben separately, asking him about Mr. Peterson, about their time alone at home, about whether anyone had ever hurt him. Ben, innocent and trusting, answered honestly. No, Mr. Peterson had never hurt him. Yes, Lily always made sure they played in their room when he was there. No, he didn't know why. He thought it was just a game. Officer Martinez took notes throughout, her expression growing darker. When she stepped outside to make a phone call, Miss Carter could hear fragments of conversation. Probable cause, child endangerment, assault on a minor. Around 5 o'clock, another car pulled into the school parking lot. Through the window, Miss Carter saw a small, tired-looking woman with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail hurry toward the building. She wore blue scrubs and white sneakers, and her face was etched with worry. "Mom," Lily said, recognizing her through the window. Maria Martinez burst into the nurse's office moments later, her eyes wild with fear. "What happened? They called me at work and said there was an emergency with Lily. Is she okay? What's going on?" Lily stood up carefully. "Mom..." But before she could say more, Maria had crossed the room and was examining her daughter with frantic concern. "Are you hurt? Are you sick? Someone tell me what's happening." Ms. Ramos stepped forward. "Mrs. Martinez, I'm Elena Ramos from Child Protective Services. Please, sit down. We need to talk." Maria's face went pale. "CPS? Why is CPS here? What's going on?" "Mrs. Martinez, your daughter has been injured. We need to discuss how it happened and what we can do to ensure both your children remain safe." "Injured? What do you mean, injured?" Maria looked at Lily, really looked at her, and seemed to notice for the first time how stiffly her daughter was standing. "Lily, what happened?" "Mom, I'm sorry," Lily said, tears springing to her eyes again. "I didn't want you to find out. I was trying to protect you and Ben." "Protect us from what?" Maria's voice rose with panic. Mrs. Henderson intervened. "Mrs. Martinez, perhaps you should sit down. This is going to be difficult to hear." Over the next 30 minutes, Ms. Ramos carefully explained what had been discovered. She showed Maria the photographs of Lily's injuries. She recounted what Lily had said about Mr. Peterson. She watched as Maria's face cycled through shock, disbelief, horror, and finally, fury. "That son of a..." Maria caught herself, glancing at her children. "He hurt my baby. He threatened my babies." "I'm so sorry, Mrs. Martinez. I know this is incredibly difficult. Where is he? Where is he right now?" Maria was on her feet, shaking with rage. Officer Martinez spoke up. "Mrs. Martinez, I need you to stay calm. We have officers at your apartment complex right now. Mr. Peterson is being taken into custody as we speak. He will be charged with assault on a minor, child endangerment, and making terroristic threats against children." "Good," Maria said fiercely. "Good. I hope they lock him up and throw away the key. I trusted him. I thought he was a nice man helping out a struggling single mom. I thought..." Her voice broke. She turned to Lily, who was crying silent tears. "Baby, why didn't you tell me?" "He said you'd get in trouble for leaving us alone. He said we'd lose our apartment. He said they'd take Ben away. I couldn't let that happen, Mom. I couldn't." Maria pulled Lily into a careful hug, mindful of her injuries. "Oh, sweetheart, my brave, foolish girl. Nothing is more important than you and your brother being safe. Nothing. Not my job, not our apartment, nothing. But you work so hard. I work hard for you, to give you a good life. But if I'd known this was happening, I would have quit both my jobs and never left your side. Do you understand me? You should have told me. I was scared. I know you were. Maria looked at Ms. Ramos over Lily's head. What happens now? Ms. Ramos's expression was compassionate but serious. We need to ensure the children's safety. Mr. Peterson is being arrested, which removes the immediate threat. But we need to assess the overall situation. The children cannot be left unsupervised while you work, especially not now. I know, Maria said quietly. I know I've been leaving them alone too much. I just couldn't afford childcare. Even Mrs. Wilson charges $20 a day, and with 2 kids, that's $40. I was trying to save money where I could. I understand. Many parents face impossible choices, but we need to find a solution that keeps Lily and Ben safe. They talked for another hour, working out a plan. Maria would take the rest of the week off work using emergency leave. Ms. Ramos would connect her with social services that could help subsidize childcare costs. A caseworker would check in regularly to ensure the children's safety and well-being. Maria would also need to find a new apartment, as living next door to Mr. Peterson's empty unit would be too traumatic for Lily, even with him in custody. There's a sliding scale after-school program at Ben's school, Miss Ramos said, scrolling through her tablet. Based on your income, you'd qualify for reduced rates. And there's a similar program at Lily's school. Between those programs and some careful scheduling adjustments, we should be able to make sure the children are supervised without breaking your budget. Maria nodded, wiping tears from her face. I should have known. I should have seen the signs. What kind of mother doesn't notice her own child is hurt? A mother who works 60 hours a week to keep a roof over her children's heads. Miss Ramos said gently. You're not the villain here, Mrs. Martinez. Mr. Peterson is. You were doing your best with the resources you had. My best wasn't good enough. Mom, no, Lily said, gripping her mother's hand. You're the best mom. You work so hard for us. This isn't your fault. Ben, who had been quietly listening to all of this, climbed into his mother's lap. I love you, Mommy. Maria held both her children, careful of Lily's injuries, and cried. Ms. Carter had to look away, her own eyes burning with tears. Officer Martinez returned from another phone call. Mrs. Martinez, I need to inform you that Mr. Peterson has been arrested and charged. He's being held without bail pending arraignment. You'll need to give a formal statement, and so will Lily. But that can wait a few days. Right now, the priority is getting Lily proper medical care. Can we go to the hospital tonight? Maria asked. We recommend it. The nurse here has done excellent initial care, but a doctor should examine Lily thoroughly to make sure there are no internal injuries. We'll also need medical documentation for the prosecution. Maria nodded. Okay, we'll go right now. Miss Ramos stood up. I'll follow you there. I need to be present for the medical examination as part of the investigation. Officer Martinez will come too. We'll make this as easy as possible. The group prepared to leave. Ms. Carter gathered the coloring books and Lily's backpack. As they headed toward the door, Lily turned back. Ms. Carter. The little girl's voice was small. Yes, sweetheart. Thank you for noticing, for not giving up when I said I was fine. Ms. Carter knelt down, her eyes level with Lily's. I will always notice, Lily. That's my job, to see my students, really see them, and to keep them safe. You're a remarkable, brave girl. Don't ever forget that. Lily managed a small smile, the first genuine one Ms. Carter had seen from her in weeks. Then she followed her mother out to their car. The hospital visit confirmed what Mrs. Henderson had suspected. Lily had no broken bones or internal bleeding, but the bruising was severe. The doctor, a soft-spoken woman with gray-streaked hair, examined every inch of Lily's torso, documenting each injury with photographs and detailed notes. She prescribed pain medication, proper wound care instructions, and a follow-up appointment in 2 weeks. "She's going to be sore for a while," the doctor told Maria. "The bruising will take time to heal completely. Keep an eye out for any signs of infection where the makeshift bandages cut into her skin. And if she develops any new symptoms, fever, increased pain, difficulty breathing, bring her back immediately." Maria promised she would. They returned home around 9 o'clock that night. The apartment complex was crawling with police officers. Crime scene tape marked off apartment 4B, and neighbors stood in clusters, whispering and staring. Maria held her children close as they hurried to their own apartment, trying to shield them from the curious gazes. Inside, Maria triple-checked the locks on the door and windows. She made the children hot chocolate and put on a cheerful movie, trying to restore some sense of normalcy. But Ben fell asleep within 20 minutes, exhausted by the day's stress. Maria carried him to bed, tucking him in with his favorite stuffed elephant. Lily stayed awake, curled up on the couch with a blanket. Maria sat beside her, gently stroking her hair. "I'm so sorry, baby," Maria whispered. "I'm so sorry I wasn't there to protect you." "You didn't know, Mom. It's not your fault. I should have known something was wrong. You were so different these past few weeks, quieter, more withdrawn. I noticed, but I told myself you were just getting older, becoming more independent. I should have pushed harder. I should have asked more questions." "I got really good at hiding it," Lily said softly. "I didn't want you to worry. You already worry so much about money and work and everything. You're 8 years old. You shouldn't be worrying about protecting me." "That's my job, to protect you." They sat in silence for a moment, the only sound the gentle hum of the refrigerator and distant sirens from somewhere outside. "What's going to happen to Mr. Peterson?" Lily asked. "He's going to jail. Officer Martinez said the charges are serious. He's going to be in jail for a long time." "Good." Lily's voice was fierce. "He's a bad man. He hurt me and he scared me and he said terrible things. I hope he stays in jail forever." "Me too, baby. Me too." The next morning, Maria called both her jobs and arranged emergency leave. Her supervisors at the hospital were understanding, especially once she briefly explained the situation. Her second job, cleaning offices at night, was less sympathetic. But Maria didn't care. Her children came first. Over the next few days, the Martinez family began the slow process of healing. Miss Ramos visited daily, checking on their progress and helping Maria navigate the complex web of social services. They found a new apartment in a better neighborhood, closer to both children's schools. The landlord, moved by their story, agreed to waive the first month's rent and most of the security deposit. Ms. Carter stopped by on Saturday with a basket of books, games, and art supplies. "From your classmates," she explained. "Everyone wanted to do something to help. They don't know the details, of course, just that you were hurt and you're recovering at home." Lily's face lit up. "Really? They thought about me?" "Of course they did. You're part of our classroom family. We miss you." The truth was, Ms. Carter had bought most of the items herself, but she'd had each student sign a card, and their messages were genuine. "Get well soon." "We miss you." "Come back soon, Lily." Ms. Carter also brought homework, carefully chosen assignments that wouldn't be too taxing, but would help Lily keep up with the class. They sat together at the kitchen table, and Ms. Carter was pleased to see glimpses of the old Lily, the one who loved learning, who asked thoughtful questions, who approached problems with careful attention. "You're going to be okay," Ms. Carter said as she prepared to leave. "You know that, right? This was a terrible thing that happened, but it doesn't define you. You're strong and you're brave, and you're going to get through this." Lily hugged her carefully. "Thank you for not giving up on me, even when I lied and said I was fine. I'll never give up on you, Lily. Never." The legal process moved forward with surprising speed. Mr. Peterson's attorney tried to arrange bail, but the judge denied it, citing the severity of the charges and the danger he posed to the community. A preliminary hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks later. Maria met with the prosecutor, a determined woman named Sarah Chen who specialized in crimes against children. "We have a strong case," Sarah assured her. "Lily's testimony, the medical evidence, the photographs, it all paints a clear picture. Mr. Peterson hurt your daughter and threatened both your children. We're going to make sure he pays for that." "Will Lily have to testify in court?" Maria asked, dreading the answer. "Possibly. We'll do everything we can to avoid it. Children testifying is always traumatic. But if we can't get him to take a plea deal, yes, she may need to testify. If that happens, I'll prepare her thoroughly. We have victim advocates who specialize in helping children through the process." Maria's hands clenched into fists. "I want him to pay for what he did, but I don't want Lily traumatized all over again." "I understand. We'll cross that bridge if we come to it. For now, let's focus on getting your family settled and safe." 2 weeks after the incident, Lily returned to school. Ms. Carter had prepared the class carefully, explaining in age-appropriate terms that Lily had been hurt but was getting better, and that they should be gentle and welcoming when she came back. The students greeted her with enthusiasm but also with surprising sensitivity. Nobody pressed her with invasive questions. Nobody made her feel weird or different. They simply welcomed her back into their community. During the first recess, Lily stood near the fence again, old habits dying hard. But this time, Sarah Chen, the girl, not the prosecutor, ran up to her with a jump rope. "Want to play with us? We're doing double dutch." Lily hesitated, glancing at Ms. Carter, who was supervising from nearby. Ms. Carter gave her an encouraging smile. "Okay," Lily said, "but I might not be very good. I'm still a little sore." "That's okay. You can be the turner first. That's the easy part." Lily took one end of the rope, and for the first time in weeks, she felt almost normal. The rhythm of the rope, the laughter of her friends, the simple joy of being a kid playing a game. It was healing in a way that medicine couldn't match. Ms. Carter watched from her position by the playground, her heart full. This was why she taught. Not for the test scores or the curriculum standards, but for moments like these, when a child who'd been broken began to heal, when vigilance and care made a difference, when the classroom became a true sanctuary. The weeks turned into months. Mr. Peterson eventually took a plea deal, sparing Lily from having to testify. He was sentenced to 12 years in prison, with no possibility of early parole. The news made local headlines. Neighbor sentenced for assaulting child left in his care. The story sparked conversations about child care access, working parents, and the vulnerability of children in economically stressed families. Maria found a better-paying job at a different hospital with more flexible hours. Combined with the subsidized after-school programs, she was able to ensure that Lily and Ben were always supervised. Mrs. Wilson, the kind neighbor who'd been watching Ben after school, continued to help out when needed, and Maria paid her fairly for her time. The family moved into their new apartment on a sunny Saturday in late spring. It was smaller than the old place, but it felt safer. Lily got her own room for the first time, painted pale purple at her request. Ben's room was decorated with dinosaurs and spaceships. Maria slept on the pull-out couch in the living room, but she didn't mind. Her children were safe. That was all that mattered. Lily continued therapy throughout the spring and summer. Dr. Michelle Reeves, a child psychologist who specialized in trauma, worked with her weekly. At first, Lily was reluctant to open up. She'd spent so much energy hiding her pain that vulnerability felt dangerous. But gradually, in the safe space of Dr. Reeves's office, she began to process what had happened to her. "It's normal to feel angry," Dr. Reeves told her during one session. "You have every right to be angry at Mr. Peterson for what he did. You also have the right to be angry at the situation, at the fact that your mom had to work so much, at the fact that you felt you had to protect everyone, at the unfairness of it all." "But Mom was just trying to take care of us," Lily protested. "I know. And you can love your mom and appreciate her sacrifices while also acknowledging that the situation was hard for you. Those things can both be true at the same time." This was a revelation to Lily. She'd been carrying so much guilt. Guilt for being hurt. Guilt for not protecting Ben better. Guilt for the chaos her revelation had caused. Guilt for the money her mother had to spend on therapy and medical bills. Dr. Reeves helped her understand that none of it was her fault. The guilt belonged to Mr. Peterson alone. Ben, too, received counseling. Although he hadn't been physically hurt, he'd been affected by the trauma. He had nightmares sometimes, dreams where bad men took Lily away. He became clingy, reluctant to let his mother or sister out of his sight. But with help, he gradually recovered his natural cheerfulness. By the time September rolled around and a new school year began, Lily was thriving. She'd grown 2 inches over the summer and had a confidence she'd never possessed before. She still had moments of anxiety. Times when a raised voice or sudden movement would make her flinch. But those moments grew fewer and farther between. On the first day of 3rd grade, Lily walked into Ms. Carter's classroom. She'd requested to have Lily again, pulling strings with the principal to make it happen, with her head held high. She wore a new backpack, purple with silver stars, and carried herself with quiet dignity. "Welcome back, Lily," Miss Carter said warmly. "I'm so glad you're in my class again this year." "Me too," Lily said, smiling. And she meant it. Throughout that year, Lily flourished. Her grades, which had dipped during the trauma, rebounded. She made new friends and deepened existing friendships. She joined the school's art club and discovered she had a talent for painting. Her artwork, vibrant and full of life, decorated the classroom walls. She also became an advocate. When she learned that other children in the school qualified for free lunch but were embarrassed to get it, she started a kindness campaign to reduce the stigma. When she heard about a kindergartner being bullied, she befriended the child and enlisted her friends to make her feel welcome. The protective instinct that had driven her to shield Ben from harm found a new, healthier outlet. Miss Carter watched this transformation with pride and gratitude. She'd been teaching for 12 years, but Lily's case had taught her something crucial. The importance of truly seeing students, of noticing the small signs that something was wrong, of trusting her instincts even when a child insisted everything was fine. She started training other teachers in her school on recognizing signs of abuse and neglect. She developed a checklist of warning signs. Changes in behavior, unexplained injuries, fear of particular adults, reluctance to go home, wearing inappropriate clothing for the weather to hide marks, arriving early and staying late at school, regression in academic performance or social skills. The key, she told her colleagues during a professional development session, is to trust your gut. If something feels off, investigate. Don't assume everything is fine just because a child says so. Children are incredibly good at hiding pain, especially when they're scared or trying to protect someone. The story of what happened to Lily spread through the school, shared carefully and with respect for the family's privacy. It became a cautionary tale, but also a hopeful one, proof that vigilance mattered, that intervention could save lives, that one teacher's persistence could change everything. Maria Martinez attended a school board meeting that winter and spoke about her experience. Standing at the podium, her voice shaking but determined, she advocated for better childcare support for working families. "I did everything I thought I was supposed to do," she said. "I worked hard. I provided for my children. I thought I was being a good mother, but I couldn't afford proper childcare, and in trying to make ends meet, I put my children at risk. No family should have to make that choice. No child should fall through the cracks because their parent can't afford to keep them safe." Her testimony, combined with similar stories from other parents, led to the district expanding its after-school programs and creating a fund to help low-income families afford childcare. It wasn't a complete solution. Systemic problems rarely have simple fixes, but it was a start. Lily turned 9 in the spring. For her birthday, Maria threw a party at their apartment. Ms. Carter attended, along with several of Lily's classmates. They played games, ate cake, and laughed. Watching Lily blow out her candles, surrounded by friends and family, looking happy and healthy and safe, Ms. Carter felt tears prick her eyes. After the party, as she was preparing to leave, Maria pulled her aside. "I don't think I ever properly thanked you," Maria said, "for saving my daughter. If you hadn't noticed, if you hadn't pushed when Lily said she was fine, if you hadn't cared enough to investigate." Her voice broke. "I can't imagine what might have happened." "You don't have to thank me," Ms. Carter said. "I was just doing my job." "No," Maria said firmly. "You went above and beyond. You saw my daughter, really saw her, when she was trying so hard to be invisible. You saved her life. That's not just doing your job. That's being a hero." Miss Carter hugged her, both women crying now. "She saved herself," Miss Carter said. "She survived. She protected her brother. She found the courage to tell the truth. I just opened the door. She's the one who walked through it." As summer approached and the school year drew to a close, Ms. Carter reflected on everything that had happened. It had been the hardest year of her teaching career in many ways, but also the most meaningful. She'd learned that sometimes the quietest students carried the heaviest burdens. She'd learned that listening meant more than hearing words. It meant observing behavior, trusting instincts, and being willing to ask difficult questions. On the last day of school, Lily stayed after class to help Ms. Carter clean up. They worked in companionable silence for a while, packing up supplies and taking down bulletin boards. "Ms. Carter," Lily said finally. "Yes, sweetheart. I've been thinking about what I want to be when I grow up." "Oh, what's that?" "I want to be a teacher, like you. I want to help kids who are going through hard things. I want to notice when they're hurting, even when they try to hide it." Miss Carter stopped what she was doing and turned to face Lily fully. The girl stood there, backlit by the afternoon sun streaming through the windows, and in that moment, Miss Carter could see exactly who she would become: strong, compassionate, determined. "You're going to be an amazing teacher someday," Miss Carter said. "But you know what? You're already helping people. The way you stood up for that kindergartner being bullied. The way you started the kindness campaign. The way you've let your own healing become a source of strength for others. That's what teaching really is. Using your own experiences and knowledge to help others grow." Lily smiled, that radiant smile that had become more and more frequent as she healed. "I learned that from you." They finished cleaning up together, teacher and student, two people bound by a moment of crisis that had transformed into a story of resilience and hope. Years would pass. Lily would graduate from elementary school, then middle school, then high school. She would indeed become a teacher, just as she'd promised. And she would carry with her always the lessons learned during that terrible and transformative time, the importance of speaking truth, the power of protecting those who couldn't protect themselves, and the knowledge that healing was possible even from the deepest wounds. Ms. Carter would continue teaching for many more years, each student a new opportunity to make a difference. But she would never forget Lily Martinez, the 8-year-old girl who refused to sit down, who wrapped her own wounds to hide them from the world, who protected her little brother at tremendous cost to herself. She would never forget the lesson Lily taught her, that sometimes the smallest signs pointed to the biggest truths, and that noticing, really noticing, could save a life. The story of what happened in that second-grade classroom became part of the school's history, told to new teachers as part of their orientation, used as a training example in workshops about child welfare. The specific details were kept confidential, but the core message remained clear. Pay attention, trust your instincts, and never accept "I'm fine" at face value when everything else says otherwise. If you found this story meaningful and important, please take a moment to like this video and share it with others who might need to hear it. Subscribe to our channel for more true stories that shed light on important issues affecting children and families. Drop a comment below sharing your thoughts or your own experiences with recognizing when someone needs help. Your engagement helps these crucial stories reach more people who need to see them. Together, we can create communities where children are protected, where vigilance is valued, and where no child has to suffer in silence. Sometimes the quietest children carry the heaviest secrets. Sometimes a child's behavior changes in ways so subtle that only the most observant will notice. Sometimes standing up is impossible, not because of defiance, but because of pain. And sometimes one teacher's refusal to look away changes everything. Lily's story is one of survival, courage, and ultimately, hope. It's a reminder that we all have a responsibility to the children in our communities, to see them, to listen to them, and to act when something seems wrong. It's proof that one person's vigilance can alter the course of a child's entire life. The scars on Lily's back would fade with time, becoming pale lines barely visible against her skin. But the strength she gained from surviving, from speaking up, from healing, that would remain forever, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the power of adults who refuse to turn away when children are in danger. This is why teachers teach. This is why we watch carefully, listen closely, and trust our instincts. Because sometimes in the quiet suffering of one child, we find the opportunity to change everything. And in that change, we discover the true meaning of our calling, not just to educate minds, but to protect hearts, to nurture spirits, and to ensure that every child knows they are seen, valued, and safe.